even sure if this camera can hear me with all the noise, nor am I sure that it's pointing at me. I think it is. I would like to talk to you the next 70 miles about what I call Pole Fitness Studio internet presence. Now, a lot of what I'm about to talk about will at first seem like there is no internet related issue, but it ties in, so bear with me. Let's start with the studio name. Whether you're thinking about opening a studio or even you already have one, consider the following. Perhaps it can help you even if you've already solidified your name. It should be something memorable. It should be unique as much as possible. But it should be short and sweet. It should be impossible to misspell. It should be easy to understand vocally in a loud room. And hopefully it will imply in its name what it is. So, studio names such as Pole Fitness Studio by Fania Dietrich in Las Vegas. Very short and sweet, straight to the point, includes the words Pole Fitness and Studio in the name. Ergo, her studio is so easily found on accident on the internet in so many different avenues, whether it's a search, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whatever. It is, in my opinion, like the perfect name to have a pole studio for internet's sake. But it's not yet perfect. For locations purposes, for local demographic, it could specify Pole Fitness Studio of Las Vegas by Fania. Something like that. It doesn't have to. It's perfect already. She's already got a standing clientele. That's not the point. The point is, the more that the name of the studio does to inform the potential customers of what it is and where it is and how much pedigree it has, that's permanent, passive, long-lasting advertising right there. You've already squashed the first 3 questions that somebody would have about your place. Where is it? What do you do? And what is it called? Okay. If you are in a big city, you might consider putting the name of the city in the name of the studio. Whether or not you plan on expanding in the future, or even just to differentiate yourself from any other studios. You may think that you're the only studio with a certain name, but if you Google it, go ahead, Google it right now. Pause the video, Google your studio name, see what comes up. Even if you're the first result, see what comes up second. That's how close you were to being confused by somebody else. So, for example, Pole Dance of Charlotte, North Carolina, but still Charlotte. That right there, it's got pole dance in it. It says studio. It says of Charlotte. So should they ever expand to include like Concord, they can say Pole Dance Studio of Concord. There you go. And they're less likely to be confused with Pole Dance Studio of somewhere else because they actually have of in the name. They're more likely to remember it that way. Look at the franchise of a Radiant Fitness. We got a Radiant Fitness Cary, a Radiant Fitness Raleigh, a Radiant Fitness Toronto, Remington, Las Vegas. Yes. So even though a radia is not a common word, it is incredibly hard to misspell. And it does have the word fitness in it. And it does have the location. So it shows the pedigree when you have some identifiers in there, such as of Las Vegas. Not because it's Las Vegas necessarily. That's a pretty good start though. But because it makes the person who reads it assume that there's more than one location. And by there being more than one location, it must be a prosperous and business that's doing well and doing things right. Even if it's the only location, even if it just opened. It's just this marketing technique that should be used or could be considered. So anyway, you want to, in my opinion, avoid words that are ambiguous to spell, ambiguous to hear in a loud room. No offense to Jenny Waters, but arete is a word that most people don't know. Many of us could probably spell it on our first guess, but in a loud room, we're listening for words that we do know. So, nothing wrong with the name of her studio, but some possible downsides are if she was in a crowded room or a loud place. and she was telling the name of her studio, even if she spelled it out, it would be that much harder to remember or understand than if it was something plain and simple. Make sure that whatever name you choose is not already being used, or any part of your name is not already trademarked. A friend of mine opened Star Potential and had already done all the paperwork and signage and everything before she found out the hard way, even though some of us may have already heard of the other studio, of Potential in Redwood City, California. So she's already done all the paperwork, and now she's doing it all over again to differentiate the name. Not just because it's best for the name, but because in that case it actually was trademarked. So, double check on the uniqueness of the studio name, and think ahead to, is this something that is easy to spell, especially as a website domain name? One thing that's incredibly confusing on website domain names is if you have multiple words, and the last letter of one word is also the first letter of the next word. You have two of those letters in a row. When people are typing it out on a .com, the most common mistake there is to put only one letter instead of two. I can't think of an example right now, but just, yeah. Okay, how about this fictional example? More empowerment. More ends with an E, empowerment starts with an E, and even though there's a capital E in empowerment, when you're typing a web address, you can use capital letters when you're typing it, but as soon as you hit enter, they're all lowercase again. So it's really kind of confusing. Which brings me to another point real quick. When typing email addresses, and most web addresses, capital letters are, it's not case sensitive. So please, by all means, if you are printing something out or typing something out, use capital letters strategically to make it more easily readable. Capitalize the first letter of each name, even though it's one long word. You can still type it, and it will still go to where it needs to go. Most people don't know that, but email addresses always, every letter is not case sensitive, so you can use capital letters to help make it more readable. Most .coms, in between the HTTP : / and the next slash, almost always is all of that case insensitive. So you can use capital letters however you want to make it more easily readable. Choose a .com that is that's the same as your whole studio name, which is another reason to have a short and sweet name. But check and make sure your .com is available. And if it's not, see what your next logical choices are, because maybe that will have some impact on whether or not you have that web address. Because even if you choose a .org, most people aren't going to remember .org. They're going to type .com. They're going to find the wrong page. I'm sorry, but it's true. All that is just studio name. Oh, one more thing, studio name. Please avoid special characters. Ampersands, the and symbol, are okay, but sometimes they can be confusing, because if you have an entry on something and you're using an ampersand, and most people don't do it, they type out the word and instead, now you have disambiguation. Ambiguation, yes, whatever. So, please avoid special characters. Please avoid articles such as the, a, and, yeah. The Pulse Studio Fitness, yeah. There we go. So, that was studio name. Next up, studio address. Now, not to be confused with location. They're two different things. Address is how it's supposed to be on paper. Location is where it physically is. And they both have an internet presence, so this does tie in. Address. Please, before you sign a lease, look on all of the maps, but especially Google Maps, the Apple iPhone Maps, and Bing, which is what Facebook uses. Look on those three maps and make sure that the address that you type in that you're about to lease, or that you already have leased, shows the exact location on those three maps. Because those are the three that people are going to be using to find you. Losing my voice. How convenient for you. So, type in your address. Hopefully the address is something not confusing. Like, I've seen some addresses recently where the name of the studio is something of Omaha, but it's actually in a suburb of Omaha that actually has its own suburb name. Like the mailing address doesn't even have the word Omaha in it anywhere. That can be kind of confusing. Zip codes are key. always include the zip codes. That tears away almost any confusion that any kind of GPS map system would have. And I don't know if you have if it's like the north side of the building or it's inside of a gym, something like that. You definitely want to say so on the website and even put that information at any other place that you have. Because if they're looking for a sign and it's not big and all they see is like Gold's Gym and they don't think to look at the door to see if they include you, they might not find you. Same thing on online if they look up an address. So that's address. Yeah. If for some reason you've already signed a lease and one of the map systems doesn't have your address correct, what I recommend is zooming in on where you physically are, asking that map system what address it thinks that is, and then mentioning this on the website. And what you can do, and I'll talk about this later, is embed that map system on the website to show it, even if it's using the wrong address. The studio that I helped out in Georgia, the physical address was one thing, but none of the map systems, even Google, found it correctly. And so instead I used the address on the main street that got you to the entrance of the shopping center. And then I specified it's actually in there. Please do go there. And I embedded the Google map, the Yahoo map, the Bing map, the Apple iPod map, iPhone, whatever. Made it more straightforward. And I typed out the actual address, but in that case I really didn't want to, because if I type out the address and they get the address, they're never going to find me anyway. It was like having a knife stuck in my foot the whole time I was there, trying to explain where it was and how to actually find it. It was one of the biggest headaches ever. It was just the tiniest thing that could have been avoided before that location was chosen. Sorry, Star, but it was. That was address, studio location. This ties into the internet really only because of word of mouth, like how someone will describe to someone else on the internet where it's located, how short and sweet it can be to describe where it's located on your Facebook page, on your Google Maps entry, and so on and so forth. So really the point here is if you're not right there on the main stretch, or if the address is not perfectly pinpointed on the map systems, you want to make sure that it's so easy to give directions to it, or say it's behind the Applebee's, that kind of thing. Also, whatever signage you have on the main roads, thanks to Google Maps cars taking what's called Street View pictures, that can really help. Whether somebody's using the mobile version or the PC version of Google Maps, they can zoom in and get to the Street View and see an actual picture of the area, and they can see the sign, and it immediately can confirm that yes, you do exist, and yes, it is in that shopping center, even if Google Maps is off by 50 or 60 feet. So location does matter. Signage matters. Grab the attention. Oh, also the name of the pole studio, or at least the coloring of the sign, could imply whether or not it's meant for women, whether or not it can include men. If it's exclusive to women, by God, say so, please. There's so not that many men out there that do pole, or at least we think so. But for those there are, it's very, very frustrating when everything on the website is just vague on whether or not men are allowed. Just because you say it's for women, unless you say it's exclusively for women or women only, it still has that small sliver of hope. Remember, when guys are left to wonder, we're optimists. So if it's exclusive to women, and I totally respect that, by all means, please imply it or specify a website or something. Studio name, address, location. Website. Okay, the .com should hopefully be the exact same as the studio name. Again, hopefully your studio name doesn't have any articles in it. If it does, that article might be the defining difference between your studio and 800 miles away, such as Dollhouse Pole Fitness and the Dollhouse Pole Fitness, 800 miles away from each other, only 3 letters away from each other on the internet. Yeah, so there's something to consider. Again, stay away from special characters, use words that anybody can spell directly or impossible to misspell. Please choose a .com. Nothing wrong with .orgs, but unfortunately, even in this day and age, people are still just .com. They just assume, and it's unfortunate. The very first thing that somebody sees when they go to your website should be mobile browser friendly, mobile device friendly. Not all mobile devices have Flash or Java or JavaScript capable browsers, so consider that. It can be nice and shiny. It can have a slideshow. It can have a Flash animation, but that should be extraneous or bonus to the actual navigation of the website. The very first thing that people want to see when they go to a website usually is the address, the phone number, the email address. That's it. Everything else is bonus. The gallery for seeing pictures and video of what you've done, the about us, what it is you teach there and who teaches there and what their background is. Those are great sections, but they're secondary to address, phone number, email address. Now, some websites, in the place of an email address, will have a contact section where they can fill out a web form, usually JavaScript, so that you can send them a message without them having to worry about getting spam from all these other spam bots. I think that's a great idea to have one of those, but I think that the email address should be somewhere on the site, even if it's kind of convoluted, or if you're worried about spam bots, then take a picture of a screenshot of you typing the email address and use that. And don't actually type it out so that the spam bots can't pick it up. There's an idea. That way people can still email you. If you have one of those forms, please, dear God, at least have the phone number right next to it. When I did this trip, I was trying to contact every studio. I started with email about 2 months before, and then after I got through all the emails, I started calling up studios that hadn't responded to emails or didn't have emails, or just their email got kicked back to me, and some of them didn't even have phone numbers. So I had to dig, and some of them I still didn't find phone numbers. Turns out they didn't exist. Now, pretty good reason why they didn't have a phone number, but still, they should have maybe taken down their website if that was the case. So yeah, website, contact information is primary and paramount. It really is. Having pictures or any kind of evidence of what it is you do at your studio. Most pole studios don't do just pole. But if it is pole oriented, that should be the first and foremost thing we see. Keep in mind, there's a lot of close-minded, significant others out there who are trying to find a reason for us not to go to pole fitness studios. And so what we should not have in the very beginning of our website is something that is even minutely objectionable by the closed-minded people. We should have something that is perfectly innocent and perfectly acceptable and politically correct, even though it shows poles. It could just be a picture of the poles. I think that's a brilliant idea, because then it's obvious what we do there. At least it's not having a picture of any of us being too sexy or too provocative. If you have other training apparatus such as TRX, Fly Gym, Lyra, Trapeze, Silks, Acro, parallel bars, handstands, whatever, have pictures of them. Let us know what you got. Because you might get clientele for one apparatus, and then they can spill over into another. It's like having multiple customers in one. It really is. People show up at a pole studio to start doing pole. They see Silks, they want to play on it, they get addicted to that. And regardless if they continue to do pole, now you got a Silks customer. It's great. Back to the maps and the address. There should be a section on the website. It could either be under the contact information or its own little section of location or locations. And I see a lot of studios doing this right. They've got the address listed, the phone number, the name of the location, like whatever suburb it's in, and if there's different locations. And then they've got embedded maps on the website that allow you to see for a fact, yes, this is where it's located, and yes, you can zoom in and so on and so forth. It's a brilliant idea. I love it. Especially if someone in the map systems don't have you in the correct spot. You can embed a map with your correct spot as a pinpoint, regardless of an address, so they can see that that's where they should go. I think that's pretty much it for the website. Nope. Schedule, class schedule. Please, please, please have an online class schedule. Even if it's just in text format and you've got a regular class schedule taught by the same teachers. great. But what I would also love to see is embedded real-time updated schedules, whether it's Google Calendar, which everyone should look into more, or clients.mindbodyonline.com, which it's a really brilliant program. It's not perfect. It covers more than just Pole Studio, so there's a lot of features in there that we'll never use or that aren't really to our advantage. But consider using it. Look at how other studios use it. Learn from their styles on which styles you want to use. Some Pole Studios, their client.mindbodyonline.com is confusing as hell. It's impossible to link to specific things, to share it. Maybe these are things that only I do. It's possible. My line of work that I've chosen for myself on the online pole community is probably a unique perspective that nobody else has to share in the angst. But if you don't mind relieving my angst just a little bit, anything that you do on Mind Body Online, by all means do it, and have a paranoid mindset to have it idiot-proof and to make it as accurate as possible. And same thing with everything else I've been talking about. It should be in the mindset as if your potential customers are illiterate, uneducated simpletons that just really want to pull. There, that's your demographic. If you nail that demographic, you're automatically getting all of the other ones. Right? If you dumb it down, you're still including the smart people. So, events, whether it's just a simple special workshop at your studio or a celebrity is coming to your workshop or to your studio for workshops, please have that on the website. It could even be a banner on the first thing. Have it on your Mind Body Online or your Google Calendar. And my personal request for you is if it's a pole workshop by a pole celebrity, please create a Facebook event page for it. Which is where we're going next. Facebook. Okay. Hopefully, as a studio, you have a places/business page on Facebook. If you are trying to run your Facebook presence through a people profile, please stop. It was our only choice there in the beginning, it was, but not anymore. Please create a places or business page for your studio. You can keep your people profile, why not? But please create a place. There's several reasons. Here we go. Reason number one, then you can be logged in as your own personal profile and get updates from or notifications anyway, as an administrator of that page. You could have multiple administrators of that page. And if you have different work schedules and different sleep schedules, having multiple administrators is a huge advantage because then it can almost seem like 24/7, we'll say technical support for your studio via Facebook. That allows anyone that's an admin to get notifications, to respond to messages in time. It's a quicker response time. It's a better tool to centralize the information, especially amongst your instructors. It also, as a business page, allows you to fill in an address, which then shows as a mini map in both on your page and anytime someone tags your studio as a location. That right there is one of the biggest reasons to have a studio page. You can fill out the information for your hours of operation. Not necessarily the schedule, but the hours of operation. You know, like at the earliest we'll be here this time on these days, so on and so forth. There's other fields of information such as how parking is, whether or not dogs are allowed, sure or not, what type of payments are receivable. You can have a description. That description can have a link to the main page, which there's a field for your website anyway. There's a spot for email address and phone number. Those should be accurate and updated if ever they change. Please. I've gotten so many wrong email addresses and website addresses and phone numbers from Facebook pages that either somebody typed it in wrong in the first place or they didn't update it when they changed. Please keep up on that. Your Facebook page for your studio should have pictures. It should be filled out completely. It should avoid spamming its own timeline. The fewer posts per day, the better. Not all posts per day are going to the people who like your studio. That's just the nature of Facebook pages. And by having a Facebook page, people can like it, they can follow it, you can share things on it that you know how to use them. Just whatever. Next step, event pages. Even if it's just a once a month chair dance at the studio, it's not on the normal schedule, please create Facebook event pages and please fill out every field of information as accurately and let's say idiot-proof as possible. Be as specific as you need to remove confusion, but be short and sweet. Specify start times, specify time zones as the location. Don't type in an address. Start typing the name of your studio page that you just created. Wait for the drop down and tag it. Doing this will show the name of the studio, the address of the studio, and a mini map of the studio on the event page. Once the event page is created, whether you invite people or share the fact that it's there, people can see this. They can add it to their Facebook events calendar. It's brilliant. And then projects like my Celebrities Workshops project can simply click maybe on that event page. It will show up on my Facebook events calendar, which then shows up on my Celebrities Workshops Google Calendar automatically, so everybody can see, hey, this pole workshop by this pole celebrity is going to be existing. So, that being said, the name of the event, if you're doing a pole workshop, in my opinion, and this is not law, this is just my opinion, having been working with pole workshops online for 3 years now, please, dear God, put thought into the syntax. You should have somewhere in the name of the event, the celebrity's name, the name of the studio, which is redundant because if you tag the location, it will be there, but still, the name of the studio and the title is useful. But I also find that putting the city name is useful. And outside of the ordinary, we've always been taught to use city, state, zip code here in USA, but that's quite the backwards way of organizing it because everybody's used to reading left to right, bigger to smaller when you're finding something. So what I recommend is putting USA, Texas, Austin, at Brass Ovaries. There you go. So you can be like Pantera Blacksmith at USA, Texas, Austin, at Brass Ovaries. That's the name of your event. Done. It'll have the dates and the times on there if you filled out the fields correctly. It will again have the name of the studio, but it will also have the address and the mini map for it. Yeah, that's the name. That is the perfect, in my opinion, name for an event. Include the words pole workshop. You don't even have to put USA, Texas, Austin, but at least have pole workshop and the name of the studio. Because again, there is the address of the name of the studio there. But either the city and or the name of the studio would be great. But if you include the words pole workshop in the title, then someone looking for pole workshops in Facebook have to type only the words pole space workshop in the search and then limit it to events, and they can find all of these pole event workshops or pole workshop events. So that right there is the number one thing. Even if you just call your event pole workshop and you ignore everything else I just said, that's the single best thing you can do for being found accidentally. And maybe you think that your whole celebrity workshop is going to be just for your local students of your local demographic. Believe it or not, I've been to 19 workshops at this point. I've interviewed a lot of people before and afterwards, and the general consensus is many people are willing to drive up to 4 hours away to come to a pole workshop by a celebrity they like. 4 hours away. Most people's demographic is a 45-minute radius. 4 hours away. That's 4 times as many people Actually, it's more than that because it's my area. But whatever. The point is, it's a lot more people that could come to those workshops and fill up those workshops. Maybe you've already got enough people filling up just from your local girls. That's fine. But by all means, please let other people know. And maybe they do want to make the 4-hour trip to see Pantera Blacksmith because they're sick and they're dying next month. You don't know. Do something. Let the world know. Pantera Blacksmith is coming to Brass Ovaries in USA, Texas, Austin, and whatever date. Do it. Please. Woo. In the description of the event pages for pole workshops, please have starting times. Please remind them of the time zone. Please have the prices. Please have a link to how they can pay for it. Until a workshop is prepaid, it is not paid for. You can't count those chickens. They have not yet hatched. Even the ones that are prepaid are sometimes likely to not show up. Something came up, they didn't remember, whatever. Case in point, sometimes some of my friends send me, hey, we're having a workshop in our studio, buddy. It's like a week away, and they just then told me. Maybe they just created the event page. Maybe they just finalized the deal of having a workshop. My opinion is you should have 2 paychecks notice before a workshop. For most people, that's up to 4 weeks. It's between 3 and 4 weeks. So that you can both request off work and have enough spending money to comfortably do the workshop. Maybe there's a little bit of travel time involved. Maybe you need to stay at a hotel overnight. That's how much time you need ahead to tell people about a workshop that's coming up. 4 weeks would be perfect. Believe it or not, more than 4 weeks means that they're kind of likely to forget. You know, too far ahead and they may not remember. But you can remind them. Pardon me. What else? More workshops, event pages. Yes, how to prepay. You can do PayPal. You can do MindBody Online. You can do Google Wallet if you use Google Calendar. But please have a way for them to sign up and prepay. You should have a waiting list as well. You shouldn't say sold out. You should say sold out, but there is a waiting list. Something like that. So that they can show up any day, and if nothing else, meet the whole celebrity, and so be it. Google Calendars. Not just for the studio website, but also as a traveling pole celebrity, Google Calendars is, in my opinion, a godsend, especially for somebody who has an Android device. Nothing against the iPhone. It could also use Google Calendars, just I don't believe there's an app for it. If there is, my apologies. But Google Calendars is not perfect, but it's pretty damn good for